You think about Bouabré, and he's using postcards, he's using marker, and he's talking about spirituality. He's talking about the history of race. He records the language of his people, which was a spoken language. He's using these same material processes, but showing the evolution of his people and of humanity, really.
I think that's very much the way he saw
Yeah.
it, actually, was that this question of human knowledge and life as his whole
Right, because the work
subject
exists
matter.
under the world knowledge.
He was one of the first people in what was French West Africa at the time to learn French.
Yes.
And then was trained as a colonial administrator.
Right.
And worked as a clerk
Right.
at various offices in Senegal.
And then in 1948, I believe, he speaks of it as a spiritual awakening. He re-saw his purpose in life not to be a government official, but to record history. So he then took to working as one of the only literate people in terms of French to record his people's history. So he had this forethought of trying to image a people in ways that the West understood, but also empower people in terms of representation.
I think that event that you referred to, which is appeared in 1948, where he had what he described as a spiritual vision.
Right.
He took on a new name, and he felt that his mission then was basically to continue pursuing knowledge in all its forms from this spiritual perspective, such that all the work that he did thereafter, he considered, as you referred to before, one overall body of work called World of Knowledge. But he continued also working as a civil servant.
Right.
And that affects the materials, because the materials are all essentially these small card stocks that were available in the offices.
Yeah.
So I think there's this really fascinating thing of looking through a very small lens and trying to look at the whole
landscape.
World. Not even just in the literal sense, but also, he considered spiritual, religious dimensions to sort of be continuous with his physical reality too.
The Bouabré works, there are 3 different series. This one, The Man Suspended by Color, shows the repetitive nature of the work. The 8 drawings we have here, as you go through, what really changes are the colors on each postcard. As the colors change throughout the images, there's a certain level of optimism. There's a sun, the warmth of the colors imply that the artist was creating these images to explore religion, but also religious optimism. Also, this idea of suspension, and what does that mean in these rainbow of colors? What does it mean politically across a continent that, starting with apartheid and Nelson Mandela's Rainbow Nation, as that political movement moved across the continent, the conversations around, was this rainbow nation, or this ideal of a rainbow nation, really effective in ending colonialism and other repressive systems in those societies? So what you really have here in these images is someone, in a way, at a crossroads. He's being lifted up by the hope or symbol of a rainbow. But are his hopes, are his desires being addressed? You have that when you're viewing this series. You have all of these questions about where does optimism play on the continent in daily lives, politically and socially. This series of work called Celeste Moon, I just find this work interesting because it continues the dialogue around using limited materials to image a world. So at this point, the artist, instead of focusing on his own local traditions and histories, is really thinking about the world in exciting and different ways. It's interpretation of the world through the vantage point of the artist. And so you just have different interpretations. The moon changes, for instance, in this one here, and the figures that we see are embracing in this ambiguous way that could imply that perhaps they're fighting or perhaps some sort of unity. And what we have is a personal interpretation by the artist of each country. The figures who are standing above a Celeste Moon, as we go through, there are subtle changes that really gives you an indication of what the artist is thinking about the socio-political, cultural histories of each country.